Test.
It's live. It's live.
All right, so I'm here with Professor Casey Gray, Professor of Jiu-Jitsu, app developer, Bitcoin expert.
No, I don't know about expert.
So employer, what do you have? You have an after-school program you run?
Yeah.
Mentor, leadership, so kind of a jack of all trades.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is just listing all that stuff off is how do you balance the time that you train here with your family life, with all the stuff you do for your business, with trying to get these apps up and running? What's your secret to balancing it all?
Man, people that I trust. I'm not doing it all myself for sure. You know, like I got Hayden, I got Eddie, I got professional developers that I pay to help me develop it. And then I've got my wife who, talk about a jack of all trades. She's a rock star too. So like it's that's the thing is like it's multiple people that are helping facilitate it. If I try to do it all myself, there's no way. I mean, one of the people that I look up to, not from like a business angle, but from just a way of thinking, a methodology is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
I love his book. He's a guy that I say, all right, obviously I'm not on his same, I'm not in the same.
Not many people are.
But what I see from him is that he can do multiple projects and he doesn't do them by himself. He blocks his time down, so I block my time. All right, I'm going to work on this from this time to this time, and, I think of the idea, I figure out how to do what the process needs to be. And I talk to the people that I trust, bounce it off of them. They give me feedback. We come to consensus and then we go execute. And so they each have their strengths and weaknesses and you just try to find those and say, all right, I don't know, I'm not good at this, but I see that you have the potential or you are good at this.
Right.
So this is what I'm tasking you to do.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. So how did you get, I think in passing in conversation one time, you mentioned something about laying floors at one time.
Yeah.
So you were a floor tiler and then
not necessarily floor tiler, but like I grew up with my, like on the weekends, and in the summertime, when I wasn't with cousins or friends, I was my dad's helper.
Right.
So my dad, I would go and help him lay carpet. And that's what he did. He was working at Vought, LTV, some of the same places that you're associated with, right? And Northrop Grumman. And he got laid off from that, and he went back to working on, laying carpet. So I just did that with him, and then there was a brief time when I was like between jobs. I went and worked for my uncle, cleaning carpet, helping with like small installs, things like that.
So how'd you get from laying carpet to this place? I'm sure that's a long road. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I was like 18, 19 years old, maybe 20 when I was doing that. And then obviously before when I was a kid, but from profession to profession, I was working for my uncle, and I was making kind of like route. It was like a route. Each day you would go out and clean all these different people's carpets. You'd have all these jobs lined out. You would route them out. You'd go out and do them, and I applied for a uniform job. Like a uniform sales rep, like a service sales rep. So I drive a van around, drive one of those big UPS looking trucks around, and then deliver uniforms. While I was doing that, and actually before that, I was always into like the UFC. But as I got older, had more disposable income, I was continuing to watch mixed martial arts. I remember watching Hoist Gracie. I remember watching other, like in the early 2000s, watching as it progressed. It started really progressing, and you saw more like grapplers, And when I saw them doing the wrestling and the submissions, I was like, I want to do that. Like, and I remember opening up the yellow pages to martial arts.
The
and I
yellow
saw
pages.
this. Yeah, I know, right? It tells you how long ago that was. I opened up the yellow pages and I saw this, you know, a little ad, and it was like all list of all these different martial arts, and then down at the bottom it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I called and I was like, hey, I'm interested in Jiu-Jitsu. Same process that we do here.
Yeah.
Invite you in, try it out. And I remember just walking out of there and I was like, you know, I'm sure that my memory is not like, it's more of a romanticized version
Sure.
of what actually happened. But in my mind, it felt like I just knew like this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Some way, somehow, like.
And you were what,
I was-
19?
That at that time I was like, by the time I got to training, I was like 23, 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
So that was right after. So that's you mentioned Hoist Gracie. I remember me and my friends rented UFC 1.
Yeah, me and
Like, his
my
mom let us
sister's
get it.
boyfriends did it.
Yeah.
I remember moving the coffee table like this thing
Yeah.
sitting on right here.
Let's
Moving
go.
we just wrestle. Like I just
Yeah.
loved wrestling. I wanted to wrestle when I was in high school or middle school. I just remember always wanting to wrestle. I loved watching the Olympic wrestling. I watched pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I remember
WWF.
wrestling with my cousins. So it just kind of was like it's just like a natural progression into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know.
So then you stumbled into a gym out of the yellow pages.
And then I just slowly progressed through training. You remember Jimmy?
Yeah.
We all met at the same
y'all
gym.
were partners kind of for a while. Did you train under him, or how did you?
Um,
I don't know much about him, but
No, Jimmy was like my best friend.
okay.
You know, and we met at the same. He did basically the same thing. He was in the UFC, found this place, started training, and we were both white belts. You know, for whatever that meant at the time. We didn't understand the structure,
Right.
none of that. It wasn't easy to just Google stuff back then. You know, you had to have books,
Yeah.
and like you'd have to go to like martial arts. I mean, there was websites, but there was the wealth of knowledge about the history of jiu-jitsu and being able to access it just wasn't
I'd never
readily
heard of
available.
it. UFC 1 was like, what's this dude in the white?
Yeah.
He's wearing his. Like,
Yeah,
this
I mean,
guy's gonna
I
get
vague-
killed.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so we had we started training together, and then we had some other folks that we were training with that we all just kind of became friends, became this like group of guys that hung out together, trained together. There wasn't really a black belt or anything at this academy. We ended up with the guy that was really training us, which was Eric Hudson. He was a blue belt at the time, and we just kind of went off. And one of our friends that also was a blue belt, his name was Nick Nuella. He had just got some mats, opened up a place, and we just started training there.
Wow.
And then we ended up splitting off of that. Me and Jimmy and my friend Nick Messina and Angel Vargas and Eric Hudson, and we opened up this place up in like downtown Arlington off of Division, and it wasn't designed to be in like an academy. It was just a club, and we bring in like Albert Hughes or Tony Tipton, some of the guys that I looked up to in jiu-jitsu. They were all like, upper belts at the time, and we were, we'd already had a few years of training, but we weren't getting ranked. We did that for a while. We opened this little place, and we would train. We'd bring in instructors. We did MMA, all this stuff. It's called 360 MMA. And then we all kind of broke away from that. Jimmy and like the rest of the group went to Alvarez, and then I moved to Dallas to be close to my soon-to-be wife, and I went and trained at Carlos Machado. And so I was training under Carlos Machado. Me and Jimmy would cross-train together on the weekends in my garage or his garage, and then I just hated my job. Got my brown belt. I was like, man, I want to open up an academy one day. I just kind of knew that, and then I started, I created the LLC and all this stuff. I found the place, and I was just like, I need somebody to help me. I can't do this by myself. And so I just talked to Jimmy. It's like, hey man, you want to help me open this place up? Help me get this place going. And he jumped on board, and we just went out, hustled, and
So
on
it's
the weekends,
growing.
he was working a job that he couldn't stand either, and I was working a job that I couldn't stand. I quit that job and opened up the academy. I took two commission only sales jobs, and just did that during the day. Nights we come teach. Weekends we go out and do events or pass out flyers Saturdays and Sundays, and just
hustling.
just great hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember I feel like I'm almost in that same schedule now where I'm just like working from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, but it's a little bit different level now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we got to. We just hustled and hustled and hustled, and then had the opportunity to build this bigger place. Leased it. The guy that owns the property built it, and we just leased it from him, or I just leased it from him because Jimmy wasn't here anymore.
Right.
But yeah.
So that was a tough thing. I didn't really know Jimmy.
He was a great guy, man. He was my best friend, man.
Yeah.
And
I've met his daughter a few times.
I still keep in contact with her.
Yeah.
Marissa, she's the bear.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jimmy. I don't want to go into the how we lost him or anything like that, but we did lose him, and the day it's kind of weird, man, because the day that I opened this place, or the day that we opened, like the very first day, that morning, my sister passed away.
Wow.
She had,
man,
an older sister. She's 2 years older than me, and I remember just waking up, and my mom was trying to call me, couldn't get a hold of me, and she texted me, you need to call me, your sister passed away. And I was just devastated.
Wow.
She was like, at that time, she was like my best friend. I literally talked to her every day. When I was out driving around doing my sales calls, when I was in between sales calls, it would be like me talking to her on those times.
So Coach Hayden.
Yeah, it's Coach Hayden. We talked about you. But yeah, man, it was that was like a hard thing, It's like
Man. I didn't know that.
We went out and did all this like pre-enrolling for people. We had all these people coming in to try out class that night for our first thing. We'd marketing, So we had these people come in, and I just had to come in and act like nothing was wrong.
Man.
But it actually helped me get through it.
Yeah.
I could have been home, grieving, of course, like grieving is natural, but it helped you like get those mental breaks where you're not just in that. It's like, hey, you have to focus your attention on something.
Yeah.
It's not like I never got to like deal with it or anything like that. I did because I had, all my family, my mom, my dad, my wife, I had obviously my friends like, Jimmy and the other guys, and and of course my other siblings. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. So, but yeah, man. So it was kind of, and then fast forward, several years later, I lose Jimmy. I almost closed the place down. Really? Yeah, I literally almost walked away from it. I was this close, I was like, there was this moment. This was before we moved into the bigger place. It was like I don't think I can do it anymore. I'm done. Like I lost my sister, I lost my best friend. I'm, like I don't even know if I can do it. Yeah. But it's one of those things where you just gotta. Like, do you want to give it all up because you're just sad and you're upset and you think it's going to be hard, or do you persevere and fight through it and,
It's a tough decision, and not everybody makes the same one you made, for sure.
Yeah, literally, I was really talking about. I was like, I think I'm done. I just don't want to do this anymore. There's too much. It felt like there was too much tragedy or too much sadness associated with it. You know.
So what kept you? How did you make the decision to not give up? Like, what kept you going?
Probably I honestly at this point I can't remember exactly what it was. Like I could probably fish something out of my brain, but I don't know that it would be accurate.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was a culmination of conversations with my wife, my friends, or my family.
So you had a lot of support.
Yeah, and then of course just being here with everybody and just like being close, like how everybody on the team at the time kind of just banded together, and so it was like, you know, I was like, man, I don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to figure it out. You know, just a lot more work. I had to bust my butt, and you know, I had Hayden. You know, he was working with me, and you know, he stepped up and took on more roles and responsibilities, and you know, was able to move him from being part-time to full-time. You know, I had no choice. You know, so
it's interesting. You know, I saw work in psychology and stuff, and see a lot of people, and I read 1,000 books and taking classes, and there's all these theories and psychiatrists and medications. There's a million things in the world to fix everything that's wrong with you, and all these techniques. And man, the more I have done it, and the more I have talked to just real people that have been through things, it's hands down just having good people around you is better than any of it. Like that's what gets people through. You know,
for sure, it's the people that
interesting.
Yeah, that lend that support.
Yeah.
You know.
I was talking to, in fact, a guy this morning, and we were talking about, you know, just kind of getting in, like, places of, like, depression and grief, and he was kind of in a bad spot, and we were talking about, you know, all the checklist things that they tell you to do, and he had been on Google, and he talked about meditating. Yeah, he'd been on WebMD, like, oh, I'm supposed to do these, and he was talking about meditation and how he's like, I've tried that, and he's, you know, saying he can't do it, you know, and I mentioned to him, I was like, me too, like, I've got, like, ADHD, and like I can't just sit there and think nothing. Like I'm thinking about thinking nothing.
So that's the thing. If you try to do self-directed meditation, it's very difficult. I downloaded an app that helps me.
Sam Harris one or
no, it's Headspace.
Headspace. I'll try it out.
So,
but don't you have to listen and think about what they're?
Yeah, but it's really like I love this guy. Like I actually there's a podcast that I listened to, How I Built This, and he was interviewing the guys that created Headspace. And one of the guy that does all the male voiceover on it is he's number one. He's got a British accent, so that always helps. You know what I'm saying? Like it breaks up. It's a different. It's just a different tone. Like it's more interesting. You know, we hear
It sounds smarter.
Yeah, it sounds smarter. You know, but it also he has a relaxing tone. He spent years as like a Buddhist monk, just
talks you through it.
Yeah, and so he walks you through it, and you can select different ones. So he kind of introduces you, like eases you into the meditation. Yeah. And there's times in the meditation where he's like, he forces you to not forces you. He guides you to not be so, like have so much anxiety about not thinking anything. It's let them come. Let the thoughts come. And if they come, you just kind of, you're like, oh, I'm thinking. Now I go back to my breath. You know, so it's not this feeling of like a failure, like, oh, I'm supposed to block out thoughts. Nobody can block out all the thoughts. I mean, it takes years and years if you're going to be like a Buddhist monk, you know, and you go to those silent retreats and all those things, and you have to practice. It's just like JiuJitsu. Like if you want to meditate, if you want to get good at meditation, you don't start meditating well. It's hard. I still, I try to do it. Not every day, but I definitely try to meditate as often as possible. I try to meditate every day. Some days I have to get up early for like a call with India or something. And like, there's from the time I wake up, by the time I get to bed, like I have to, if I'm not going to get enough sleep, I sacrifice meditation for the extra sleep,
Yeah.
Because I'm very vigilant about how much sleep I get.
I've tried the transcendental thing. I've started with it, and I don't mind it. Like I like the thought process of and that's kind of the same thing they have. Is like you don't have to be completely blank.
Yeah, and
it's calming the thoughts,
exactly,
not necessarily
exactly.
eliminating them.
But there's other types of meditations. Like it's not just blocking out thoughts or just thinking nothing. That's the thing. Like I tried to meditate by myself, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like trying to learn jiu-jitsu without an instructor.
It'd be difficult.
It's hard. It takes practice.
I've found. I was talking to him this morning, and I used Jujitsu as kind of my example. I was like, it's hard for me to sit still and clear my mind and stuff, but I was kind of talking to him about just the benefits. I think you get the same benefit in doing something like that. You come to class for an hour, and you're telling me to do this, do that. I have to pay attention to all the details and everything to do, and then you're going with somebody else, and then at the end, you have live rounds. You're going, and you better be present. You have to focus. And so whatever you've got, it made me think of it a minute ago when you were talking about, kind of like you can process all of the things that are going on in your life, and you can be stressed and you can have all these things, but it's good to have a break mentally, to have something like that. I come for an hour and I leave.
It's almost like meditation, maybe the guy that's guiding me to meditation, he does nothing outside of that. Maybe he runs, and that's another great type of meditation. But when you're running, you're kind of like almost in like thought free fall. It's like nothing but thoughts. It's like a great way to do nothing but think.
I think because running is so automatic, I can do that without thinking.
Yeah, it's like walking.
You have to dedicate part of your brain to this.
And so if you're meditating, you're also focused on breathing. I'm focused on my breathing, or I'm focused on my surroundings. Like there's different things that like these meditations, but I don't want to go too deep into that, but meditation does, like, I do think it's important, and that helps me, to your earlier question, which is balance. It helps me stay balanced, and like I'll get depressed. I'll get very depressed sometimes as an entrepreneur. Yeah. You constantly think that you're failing. Like, oh, I failed at this, so I'm, there's just a lot of it, it's funny so that helps me, focus on what am I doing all this for? So those are what's actually bringing me happiness. It's my family. It's being able to see the lives that you impact. A
lot of people don't see too the stress that goes into being entrepreneurial, and that your mistakes affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
You have all these people that depend on you, for their livelihood and come to you. And so when you make a mistake, it's compounded by that much more.
You think weight. Like, man, especially when you start employing people, I've got 5 employees, like that's heavy sometimes. You're like, man, I'm not just out here trying to make this thing work for me and my family. Now I've got people that depend on me.
And they've got families. That's I don't think most people consider that. Especially in today's climate. You see all the political talks, and there's a lot of people there's a lot of stress on being the owner.
Yeah.
So that's some of the benefits we kind of talked about there. What are some of the other things you see, and kind of? So I think there's a big difference in being kind of doing this as like the hobbyist, which there's a lot of people here that do, and then there's a lot of people that actually try to compete and are on like a competitive level. What do you see as maybe some of the benefits to either of those? Is it the same? Are there different benefits to them? What do you get out of jiu-jitsu besides learning how to, defend yourself in a street fight?
I think that with, being able to defend yourself in a street fight is really completely different than, or there's a lot of difference in that and what we actually do every day. That's why we spent that last week on self-defense, because there's so much of it is really like it's sport centric. Yeah. So the techniques that we learn, that we end up passing along, are all almost sport centered. It's a game. It's because it makes it fun to learn. Like you if all you did was come in here and train for street, possible street self-defense, you get really bored.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like, if you're constantly learning that, like nothing but self-defense related techniques, then you're always thinking about it. It's like if you went 3 times a week to the shooting range to practice for home invasion, you're like almost hoping that a home invasion happens. You're constantly like you're keyed up all the time, and so you're everything you do and everywhere you go, you're looking, you're hoping, you're looking, not really hoping, but you're almost anticipating.
I wish somebody would.
Yeah. So it just wouldn't be fun. I wouldn't have fun teaching it all the time.
Yeah.
The sport helps you learn things that can aid you on the street for self-defense. So a lot, like I always say, what is it, that Venn diagram, I think it is, where you've got like the 3 circles and they meet. You know, you've got these 3 circles and then like or 2 circles or whatever it is, and like right in the middle there's that small circle.
Overlap.
And so there's the overlap of all of the techniques that apply to sport. You know, so you got all these techniques. You know, you got worm guard and all these fancy guards and all these things that wouldn't necessarily work for self-defense.
Right.
And then you have all these self-defense things that wouldn't translate over into the sport of jiu-jitsu, because like it wouldn't go over here. Like I'm not doing push kicks to set up takedowns in a jiu-jitsu tournament. Okay? But that can fit in that little circle of self-defense, you know, to get it to the ground. That being on the ground in side control, in mount, you know, a guillotine choke or a triangle or a head and arm or a rear naked, like any of those things will aid you in a self-defense situation and in sport jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Okay? So just that there's that overlap.
Yeah.
And so you're learning all of these techniques in the sport-centered teaching methods, but they also can aid you in self-defense. But you don't have to be thinking about how they apply to self-defense always. So that's kind of, how I see it now. I don't remember what your
everyone kind of talked around it. Yeah. Just
but how they relate. Yeah.
Well, or even kind of like I think
different.
kind of getting at like so aside from learning techniques and learning jiu-jitsu, the sport, what do you see as some of the bigger benefits? Because I know, like, you know, my kids come here, and I can tell you, like, when we brought Savannah and Kinley, like, I could list 10 things that are, like, a noticeable difference in those girls and how they've grown and where they're at now because they were a part of 360 and a part of jiu-jitsu. You know, like, Savannah competing, you know, she was terrified to do it. And just the growth of her, like, man, the courage she mustered up to get out there and do it, get through the competition, and then she won, you know, the first time, and so her confidence going up, and just the confidence at school. You know, Kinley got an issue at school where 2 kids were kind of picking on her, and she defended herself. Just different little things that they come, and I've seen you know, Savannah even repeat things like you have said about, you know, being a leader and things in class. So I know that they're picking up things about leadership from here. So I just wondered, kind of like in your experience, what were some of the things that jiu-jitsu's brought to your life aside from just the sport of it, and what you hope to pass on to the kids. And for anybody who's out there that says, hey, maybe I might want to try this or get my kids involved, what would you say, hey, these are some of the benefits you could expect from?
Definitely benefits are relative to the person, but, you know, in general, I know for me, like, the confidence that I have, like, I remember being on a football team, and I didn't want to play a play out there. I didn't want to get out. I was scared to death.
Yeah.
I was very shy. There was other things that aided in.
So you're scared of football?
I was scared of it, man.
Took up single-handed combat.
Yeah, but it was funny because, like, the camaraderie that was built early on, there's a difference. Like, you know, it's, you know, I don't want to say this that, you know, and make it come across the wrong way, but there's similarities in the fact that like military camaraderie.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously on a much smaller scale, you know, but there's this feeling of, like, when you're in here, you're grappling against other people. There's very intimate, you know, it's very close, and, you know, you have literally, you know, the power of life and death
Yeah.
in your hands at all time. And there's a bond that's created with jiu-jitsu that I've never experienced in anything else, aside from just being blood relative.
It's
crazy.
I was in the military for 12 years, so I mean I know what you're talking about. And now that you mention it, there is kind of like
there's a natural camaraderie. And then when you have all these people that you're training with and you're experiencing this with at the same time, and you're all growing together and you're learning, doing difficult things together. That's the thing. You're doing something that's very difficult with other people.
Yeah.
And you're all kind of progressing, especially like you start with like at the same time as somebody or around the same time. You're naturally drawn to those people because you're experiencing a very similar growth scale. And so there's this bond that's built with you and those people. And that was the same thing for me and my friends.
You're competitive, but you're supportive.
Yeah, and then we would go to like, I remember going to my very first competition, and then I loved it. And I was like, this is out of my nature. And so that was kind of one of the first benefits that I saw was like, number one, I was learning something difficult, and that's never easy. It takes perseverance, it takes dedication, it takes accepting failures and mistakes and learning from them. And so those are some of the biggest things that you can learn right away from jiu-jitsu, and it's almost subconscious.
Yeah.
It's not like you're consciously thinking of like, I am learning something difficult, therefore I'm getting more confident. You're getting more confident as you progress. Okay, and so that's one of those benefits that you naturally come with it if you stick with it. The camaraderie,
It is interesting to see like how you make friends up here. I think another thing that's similar to the military, I was talking to somebody the other day, is when you show up to the military the first day, they put you in the same clothes and cut all your hair off, and there's like, I don't know who the poor kids are, the rich kids, the Democrats, the Republicans, your sexual orientation. Like, I don't know nothing about nobody.
None of them
and
matters.
You don't care, and you're just in this adverse situation, and you better depend on each other, and you learn to trust each other. Yeah. And I think that same, just very basic. You show up, everybody's wearing spandex,
or what I'm wearing, because pardon my outfit, because I just got through with a private lesson, but yeah, like it is very similar in that regard, so I think that the confidence that you get is I don't think that it's like I said, on a conscious level that you understand that you're becoming more confident. It's just a side effect of it.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing that comes along with it, I mean, you talked to Emmy and her dad.
Yeah.
This girl was crying before she walked out of the mat the very first time, and then she goes and competes.
Yeah.
And then she's crying for all different reasons.
Yeah, I was there.
Awesome. So that can tell you right there, like I don't think that if I hadn't done jiu-jitsu, I would have ever had the confidence to ever even go out and start my own business. I knew I wanted to be a business owner. Always, but I don't think I would have ever had known what I wanted to do, number one, and two, had the confidence to do it.
The step.
Yeah.
I really do think like the competition aspect of this is unlike a lot of things. It's unique. I think it was Hayden, I think we talked about it, was how it's very team oriented here, and it would be very difficult to be successful without a good team of support around you.
Yeah.
But like, and you have to have that, and you all depend on each other, and it's supportive, and you help each other, and there's a very strong team atmosphere. But at competition time, like, it's just you, and there's a big open space so that you can walk out and be in the spotlight and everyone can see you. And it's, there's something to overcoming that, and kind of looking up and there's bleachers full of people and everyone's screaming at you, and you're like,
every time I've ever competed,
it's just me, and
like
this guy's going to try to harm me.
It's almost like I zone it out. Like I don't even. I remember being on, like, I got to be in the halftime show for one of the Dallas Cowboys games. Like me and my boys, like we were in like this halftime thing they did, and I just remember all the people, but they're just like a blur.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're not even affected by it. Like there's so many people that you don't even care what, like they're not even there. They might as well not even be there. because it's just like a blur
once it starts.
And so I think like when I go out, like if I was to go out and compete and it was just you watching me, it would be a completely different experience for both of us. But I would be way more alert as to what your eyes watching me than if when I go out and like all these people are watching.
You feel that way? I agree. Once it starts, it's blocked out.
Yeah, it's like it's just.
I think beforehand when you're there and you know you're before they call your name, and you see all those people.
I literally I never
Really?
looked at them. I never looked around. I literally was just like, I'm just, I'm there, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm in here.
Get the
Like
zone.
I'm in this other. It's almost like. I don't see what's going on. I see what I am visualizing.
One of the craziest things that surprised me was like there's a million people and everyone's screaming at you. You watch it on like Ultimate Fighter show or whatever, and you're like, how did it's so annoying, and everyone's like, do this, do that. And I thought it was really weird that you were coaching me the first time I ever did it, and how in a million people you didn't hear nothing, but I could hear you.
Yeah.
And it was just like somehow your brain picks out of all that noise like what it needs and what to listen to. That was one of the weirdest
Yeah,
things
it's tunnel hearing. Like
Yeah.
you don't hear anything but what you need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you competed a lot? Were you
I wouldn't say I competed to today's standards, probably not, but at the time, yes. I competed a lot. I competed as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when I was working 2 jobs, or even before the academy, I worked 2 jobs. I remember being a salesperson and delivering pizzas at night. And I had 2 boys at one time where I was just raising them by myself. And so being able to just, I had full custody, meaning like that, every other weekend or once a weekend, 1 weekend a month, or every couple of months, the boys would go to their moms.
Yeah.
And so there was just, my focus was, I always trained. They would come with me and they would sit and watch me train. But I would train 2 to 3 times a week, if not more if possible. Sometimes 4, and they would come with me, But, when probably other people were competing more, I was spending time with them on the weekends.
Yeah,
the
balance.
But when I compete, when I could, I would. I've competed at least 100 times.
Oh wow.
I would think at least that many. I've at least 100 matches in competition for sure. And I loved it when I did it. It was very enjoyable. But now I'm just I don't have the drive to do it. I don't have the whatever it is that the desire is really what it is. I just don't have it. It's not burning inside of me to compete anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can definitely see that. It happens. So I wanted to talk to you too. So a lot of people, that compete. I wanted to talk to you about Fight to Win. I came and watched you out there, and there was quite a few of us, and I know that was a disappointment for you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on like, man, I hate that question when they're like, can you walk us through it? Tell us what you thought, but kind of
that was my second Fight to Win appearance. My first one I lost. I was really doing well. Like it was my match to lose. I was definitely.
So when was that? Was that
2016? It was literally, like a few days, a week before I lost Jimmy.
Wow.
There was a lot of things going on that led up to that, and those were kind of happening at the same time. But I went in there. I performed very well up until the point where I knew that I shouldn't have gone for a leg lock on this guy because he's a leg lock guy, and it exposed my legs, and I ended up spraining my MCL and LCL. And so I came back, and it was a year later. I competed again, and won all my matches and got gold. It was at a Fight to Win tournament.
Okay.
And then I got an offer to fight again against somebody that really, I probably shouldn't have been competing against, but I want to, it's always fun to go against somebody that's really good, and took the match, a younger guy that competes regularly.
Yeah.
And I hadn't competed in a year, and so I took the match, and probably shouldn't have, but, that is what it is, and prepared well. Like, I felt well prepared for it. But, just not making excuses. It's just I should have competed more so I have some of that, the timing of competition, the speed in which it takes place, especially against a really good competitor. It was disappointing, but it's like I learned a lot from that. Like, I learned, like, what my passion, like, what I really want to do. Like, I learned that this isn't my scene.
Yeah.
This isn't my thing anymore. It's just not me. I don't know that, like, that was ever me, So it was really a learning experience. And, like, I don't look at it as, like, a disappointment anymore. I look at it as something that I learned a valuable lesson out of. Like, it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Number one, I should, if you're going to do something like that, you need to be completely prepared for it. Number two is I learned about myself that that's not what I want to do. I know where my focus needs to be. I know what my passion truly is. And, like, I look at it completely different. I learned a lot about, like, the levels of jujitsu, and I don't know, man. It was like, and the people around me, like, the people that, like, just because you lose a match, like, you think that, like, all this stuff is going to fall apart. Like, you're like, oh, when you're a school owner and you get up there in front of all your students and you're trying to teach them effective techniques and you fail. Like, how, you think, oh man, I'm a failure as a black belt. I'm a failure as an instructor. But then, if you don't, if you take that opportunity to feel bad for yourself and sorry for yourself, and woe is me, then what are you actually teaching?
Yeah.
Like, you have to say, you have to practice what you preach, and it's learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And it was I look at it now as, like, one of the better things that happened. It completely shifted my focus. It really woke me up to what my focus needs to be.
Yeah.
And what I'm actually.
So you found a really positive meaning in adversity.
Oh my God! It was like it was a turning point, man.
Really?
Yeah, like, it really was. Like, I've had other offers to compete again on Fight to Win. I've had Lucas, who's wanted me to compete again. Like, hey man, come on, compete. And I'm just like, I don't have the drive for it. I don't have the passion for it. I've got other things that I want to focus on.
Well, you learned you need that drive and passion to get to that
exactly
level.
Because I really didn't want to compete.
Yeah, you're not at, like, the old,
like,
man hobby
even
level.
Even that Fight to Win that I took, I really didn't even want to do it.
Yeah.
I took it because I just thought it would be fun. I thought it would be cool. I thought it would be a great opportunity to.
I feel like you kind of had to, like, because of, like, owning the school and being here. Like I need to take this. Is there a level of obligation kind of?
There probably is. There is a lot of, like, there was some of that probably before. It's hard to remember exactly if that was the case, if that's what motivated me. There was probably some of it was, like, a pressure to, like, I always wanted the door open to Fight to Win and Seth Daniels because he does so much in the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to, like, I'd already turned him down before that. And I thought, man, if I keep turning him down, I'm not going to get another opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there was some more of like peer pressure, not from him. He doesn't think negatively about you if you don't do it, but you know, it's kind of one of those things. If you like ask your friend out to go out with you all the time and you never do it, they're gonna stop asking you. And I always I thought that I wanted to keep that door open.
Yeah.
And now I don't care if it closes. Like.
Well, so you brought a lot out of that.
Oh man, like I said, man, there's times where I've had complete, like, eye-opening points in my overall journey, whether it be in life.
Yeah.
You know, that have shifted. You know, I've talked about this with somebody before, and I kind of look at it as like you have all, you know, you're just going through your life, and there's these moments, you know, some of them, like, you make these decisions and they don't really take you off of like a path that you otherwise would have gone. But then there's these moments where you don't realize them at the time, but there are like a fork in the road until you've gotten so far. You're like, whoa, I was on that road over there, and now I'm on this one over here, and I'm glad that there was that junction that at the time you don't think about it, you know, as being so pivotal, but once you get so far down, you realize that was a major directional point in your life.
I had a big conversation with somebody the other day talking about not being so focused on your destinations, but on the journey. Yeah. Because a lot of times along the way, those forks happen and you end up somewhere else. I thought I wanted to go here, but man, this place is so much more awesome. And you know, you'd miss that if you 100%. You stay focused up ahead.
But I see at the same time, have you ever read Think and Grow Rich or any of Napoleon Hill's work?
No.
So Napoleon Hill has Think and Grow Rich. He has the Laws of Success, which Laws of Success is one of the is what spawned Think and Grow Rich. It's like the condensed version of that. 'Cause like Laws of Success is like bigger than the Bible.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I haven't read that.
Yeah, so but if you read his, Think and Grow Rich, it's a title that sells, but most of it it's not just about being rich with wealth and money. It's rich in whatever you decide to put your mind to, and it's all about visualizing. So lights went out. Okay. Timer?
No, just that one. I don't know if that was a. All right, I think.
But visualization, it talks so much about like seeing where you want to be. Okay, how I got there. Like I know where I want to be. Like what it is that I'm trying to achieve. What it is that I have a desire to achieve. Now, that at this point in time, that's what it is. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, whether it's more time with your family, taking care of your mother or your father or some kind of family member, whatever it is that you need, success or riches and whatever that means to you. You got to visualize it, and now I have to take action. I have to start marching towards that, and when it's almost like the law of attraction, where I know what I want, I know what I desire, I'm trying to achieve it, I'm walking down that path, and now I'm going to get there, not through that linear path that I think that I'm going down. It's then that pivotal point, the decision that I made is taking me to that.
Yeah.
I made that decision because I knew I in my subconscious now, I've already said where I'm going to be. And I'm going to make that decision because that decision is going to lead me to it. Whether you consciously made that decision, it was more of what you desire and what believe that you're going to achieve. Therefore, I'm taking that path. Yeah. But you didn't think that this path leads to that. It's just I made this decision. This is where I want to go.
So almost through visualization of your goals at the end, you're sort of setting the stage to make the decisions
Yes,
along the way.
I made that decision because that decision is going to lead me there.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't have to like think about.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about, we get caught up in like there are wrong decisions and you can make bad ones.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean there's only one right one.
Exactly.
If you and I are trying to get to Dallas and we leave in separate cars, we may not take the same roads to get there.
But we make it.
But we end up in the
Yeah,
same location.
that's such a great, you know, because you may end up making that decision, and it led me. I was at that crossroad that I didn't realize I was at.
Yeah.
I took that, and I was like, whoa, this is diverting me from. You recognize it, like you start getting further down there. Like if I would have said I'm going to start competing more, and I want to compete, but the desire that I had is over here. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go compete more, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to travel, blah, blah, blah. And I get way over here, and I'm like, how is this aligning with the goal that I'm trying to achieve? Like, will this serve the ultimate desire that I'm trying to reach? And then you would have to say, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not. So therefore, I must make a turn.
Well, that's a valuable enough lesson to have gone through it in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
well, you mentioned a lot of what you took out of it. I know that one thing that I remember from that, I talked to you a few days after it, and I knew it was disappointing for you. But so Savannah, she was going to compete a couple months later, and she had made the decision. She was, a nervous ball of anxiety, and she was actually really training really hard, got really focused. I was super proud of her. But I had a conversation with her one night shortly after, and she mentioned that when she went to the competition, she said something along the lines of, she said, I just hope I can be brave like Coach Gray and get out there, or something along those. But I remember her mentioning that just being brave enough to get out there and do that in front of everybody and put yourself out there regardless. And, so for what it's worth, I mean, those leading by example moments like that, when you sometimes don't know what effect you have on other people. Like I do know that it had an effect on Savannah,
then it's all worth it, you know, like.
That's the reason we kept coming up here. There are a lot of other gyms around here, and they don't all have the same atmosphere and culture, and I've got friends at some different ones, but there are a lot of places that I have seen or talked to people that I'm like, yeah, my girls wouldn't have made it over there, but they love it here, and they've grown so much and gone a long way. So it's.
Well, man, I appreciate you telling me that, man, and I think that I've garnered a lot of thoughts from it, and being able to say, hey, like when you lose like that in front of everybody, now you've got permission to fail.
Yeah.
And you've got a teachable moment that you can say, hey, look, man, I want to, you go compete, or somebody goes competes, one of our students goes competes and they lose, and I say, look, man, I lost too.
You can mean it down.
I can be like, look, man, I lost on one of the biggest stages in all of Jiu-Jitsu in front of all my students, and nothing changed for the worst.
Nothing.
I
got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Y'all get it.
You'll get it. But you just nothing negative came out of it.
Well, you can mean it now too.
Yeah.
We always say, "Oh, you just get better and you learn from defeat."
No, man.
Okay, but I don't want to.
I learned who I want to be.
Yeah.
I learned what direction I want to go. I learned what's important to me, what I truly, nailed down what I truly desire.
Yeah.
It just took out all of the guess, all of the do I want to compete more or don't I? No, I don't.
Yeah, you learn.
I don't, and I'm okay with that now. I've come to this acceptance. I don't before. I would compete. I started to compete because of peer pressure in the community, in the jiu-jitsu community. It's very competition is it's driven so much by competition, and that's not a bad thing because it's it's evolved the sport so fast, and it's helped grow the amount of people that are interested in it. It's built more of that camaraderie. It's done a lot of great things, you know.
Yeah.
But as a school owner, as a black belt, there's this, even if it's self-imposed, even if it's not what's the truth, it's what you perceive to be the truth, is that if you're not competing as a black belt instructor, you have no business teaching. And I go, really? So why don't you go tell that to John Danaher?
Yeah.
He has a philosophy, not to say, but then you can obviously say, well, he's spitting out world-class competitors because that's what he's focused on.
Yeah.
I'm not focused on that. And I came to just be comfortable with knowing what are my strengths.
That's an all sport misconception, I think. It's the reason, like, all the time Michael Jordan is our coach when he retires. No, he's not good at it. Like, just players and somebody doing and being in a competitive level, and somebody who's, like a master of the art, or somebody who's a coach, like, you don't have to be all or none.
Yeah.
Like, everybody sort of has their roles and fits in, Some people, like, there are some people that are super smart and probably know more about certain sports than anyone else, but they're not genetically built for it, or just different things like that. I think that's a silly way to look at, like, well, if you don't compete, you can't.
Yeah, but there's a even if it's a self-imposed pressure.
Yeah.
There's definitely still a push, a community-driven pressure, like, that you feel innately.
Yeah.
That, I should compete. I need to compete. Why am I? If I'm not competing, like, I'm not legit, or whatever it is. And I just, like, I don't care what they think about me anymore.
I think
I know, you know what I mean. Like, that's what happened too out of that.
I think at some point that starts to minimize all of when you're hyper focused. When you get to that level, like, you like fight to win, like, to be at that level and to be competitive with the guy that you were competing against, like, you would have had to dedicate a lot of your focus and energy to that.
Exactly.
Right? And what suffers in that is all of the things that Savannah walks away with, or that they learn every day, or the things that, as a black belt, as an instructor and as a coach and a mentor to all these kids and the adults too, really, you'd have to sacrifice that. Like, that goes away, and that's something.
'Cause I'm focused on myself.
So much more. To me, that's more important. Not knocking people who totally dedicate to competition.
Because I think that if
do your thing.
Yeah, because, like,
it doesn't
you
mean
can be a
less.
great instructor and be a really good competitor.
Sure.
You look at Andre Galvao.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
he's
that guy was awesome. Yeah.
Built one of the top teams in the world, competed at the same time.
Yeah.
All just won ADCC for the 6th time. So it can be done.
Yeah.
But that's what he's focused on. I'm not focused on that. That's not my desire. That's his desire.
Mm-hmm.
We got Lucas Pinheiro here. He is an extremely good competitor, one of the top in the world. And he's a good instructor.
Yep.
Okay, but he's not focusing on the business of running the academy.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point too.
There's a difference. Like, am I focused on the business and keeping it sustainable and growing it and keeping a place for the community to come and train? Because that's my desire.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the kind of place that I want to create, not some super competitive academy. Like, that's just not my focus. It's not my drive. It's not my desire. I think that if there's people that want to compete, we have a great competitor here who knows how to prepare and who is becoming more of that person that's going to help drive the competitors to their potential. I feel like I'm like the facilitator.
I think you do a really good job. You read all these leadership books and things, and you've got these characteristics and aspects of, you got to learn to delegate. You got to learn to, it seems like you do a really good job of identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the people around you and saying, okay, this is a strength of yours, handle this, it's yours, and trusting that they'll do it. Like that's my impression anyways.
Trying to
giving them ownership of it, letting them handle it, and identifying at the beginning, like, this is something you're good at, go do it. Like,
Yeah,
and I think that's,
and realizing where their potential lies. Like, they may not be completely good at it yet, but saying, hey, I believe that you can become really good at this.
yeah,
I feel like this could be your strength. And then you take them down that path, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But you've got to have the risk tolerance to
risk
do it.
tolerance.
That's how I
words.
look at the business. You got to have a risk tolerance. Like, if you don't have a tolerance for risk, then you have no business being in business. Like, if you're just going to play it safe,
Yeah.
if you're not going to take chances and not going to take risks, that's another thing I've learned from jiu-jitsu, is you've got to be okay with making mistakes. You've got to be okay with failing,
Yeah.
and getting beat sometimes in business.
Yeah.
And like going, okay, I've had people look at this place and they think it's a success.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a ton of mistakes that I made and continue to make and will continue to make, and I just have to like minimize their effect.
Yeah.
Like, all right, don't take a bunch of risks that cost you your business. You take calculated risks, but you still have to take risks nonetheless. You have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is.
Sure.
You know, and so that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like, if you're out there training, you know, you gotta, like, if you're just holding somebody in guard for 5 minutes because you don't want them to pass your guard, and all you do is try to hold them in your guard, you have a very low risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So maybe you should open your guard up and try to submit them, even if you get your guard passed and you learn, all right, well, let me try that again.
It's fighting not to lose instead of fighting
fight to win.
And
You
it's
know,
not
I'd
the
rather
same.
go out there. Like, speaking of fight to win, I would rather go out on fight to win and go and fight and
Yeah.
lose and go for the win and lose it than to just like play it safe and hold the person
Yeah.
in position the whole time. It'd just be boring. It's boring to watch. It's boring to do.
Yeah.
And like,
I try to tell my girls too, like, you know, are you proud of that at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Like, are you proud of taking the, you know?
yeah, man, just
If
get
you
out
take
there and
10
have
shots,
fun. Have fun.
You'll land one of them. Like,
Exactly.
you know,
Have
something
fun,
will land.
man.
So,
You
very
know?
cool, very cool.
Good.
So, we kind of tied up here. What are some of the things what do you, as a coach and as the owner of this place, you've got all these people that kind of look up to you, you know, from, what's your youngest kid here? Probably 4 years old?
Yeah, 4 or 5
4?
years old.
You know, to some of these high school kids, you know, probably, you know, people from single parent families all the way up to, I mean, you know, there's people in their 50s that train here. That's a big gap.
Yeah, it's a huge gap.
So what is it you hope that you pass along that other people take out of, when they say, hey, I train at 360, what do you hope it is that they take out the front doors? What's your philosophy on, like, obviously good jiu-jitsu and good technique you want to teach here, but what is it you hope that you pass along to everyone?
Man, I don't know that I've thought about it in that way. Like, is there one thing? Probably not.
Probably not.
I think that it's a culmination of things. I hope that they, like, there's a lot of like politics in jiu-jitsu that I don't like. There's a lot of things that I don't like about jiu-jitsu, but that's with everything.
Yeah.
Okay? So stripping all that away, just the fun of training, the fun of the journey, the ups, the downs, the full experience of jiu-jitsu. I want people to experience it, because I think that everybody's going to have a different experience in it, meaning you're gonna have benefits that are different from everybody else. You know, some of them, once again, they may cross over, but they're all going to be different. So if you just, with jiu-jitsu, I want them to love jiu-jitsu, enjoy doing it, and continue doing it for as long as they can, whether it's here or somewhere else.
Very cool.
You know, like, that's what I hope. You know, I've had people that have left for various reasons, some financial, some, you know, they wanted something different.
Yeah.
And instead of being upset about that, I say, okay, I may not have what you're looking for, but there may be a place that is right for you.
Yeah.
And I hope that you find it, because I want you to continue training, because there are so many benefits to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that don't train with me anymore that I still keep in contact with because they're on their own journey.
That's a good word to end it with there. You know, we talked a second ago about the journey. You know, and there's not necessarily one, well, I hope people leave with leadership or perseverance or, you know, trying. Like, there's so many different things that each person needs that they can get in a place like this or in an art like this.
If they're open to it.
It's about the journey
yeah.
and focusing on what your goals are and being open to the off ramps and the different turns and crossroads along the way.
And to that, I want to you know, for if there is anybody that listens to this that may be like thinking about
trying like 4 subscribers now,
know?
so
hey, so you're like, you know what? Everybody starts with 0.
Joe Rogan had 1. He had to have 1.
I had 0 students at one point.
That's a true statement.
You know, but I kept working and hustling.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll get better at it.
Yeah.
You know, this has already been fun, but the thing that I think that like I want to say to anybody that may want to train, like, there are times when you get into anything where you're going to have like these, you're going to have high highs and low lows, and you're going to put this pressure on yourself. You're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like your jiu-jitsu sucks sometimes, because I've had that happen, man. As a black belt, there's times where I walk out here and I get destroyed, you know, like Tino or somebody else or Hayden or Eddie or of course Lucas. It just work me, you know. I'll get submitted by a blue belt or something, you know. That's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I walk out and I'm like, man, you know, you start to, you know, it doesn't matter. You still have these lows. You're like, man, I'm not that good or this or that. And then you'll go, wait, I'm getting better. And then as soon as you hit that, you go down. Just not succumbing to failure. Don't succumb to it. It's like, you're going to fail. But through those failures, if you persevere, if you find where the mistakes are and how you can fix them and adjust, you will ultimately be successful.
Yeah, awesome, wise words. All right, so tell them where they're at. I'll put the website and things in the comments down below if anybody's local and wants to check it out.
360bjj.com.
Yep.
You know, call us. We've got 360 Jiu-Jitsu here in Grand Prairie. You know, on Facebook. You know, 972-352-5994 if anybody wants to give us a shout. This has been great, man.
All right,
Fun
glad we finally made the time to do this. So this is interesting.
Thank you for coming up to the academy.
Yeah.
And going remote for me, man.
Yeah, remote. Yeah. All right, on location. All right, thanks,
Awesome.
Casey.
Thanks, man.
All right.